Welcome to the meeting. Today we are going to be talking about our final project that we'll be needing to do for this fiscal year here at Energy Rich. We are going to be opening up a new division, the home energy efficiency division, and you guys are our fine crew that are going to be doing here. So we have a couple clients lined up here, and we need to set up a proposal. So that's what this meeting's about here. Is creating that proposal. So we did a lot of the background work already. We just need your team to kind of, make our final product for our clients. So let me tell you a little bit about what you guys are going to be doing, you and your teams. All right. So here's the situation, and I will move my screen in a moment. As employees of Energy Rich, our newest division, the home energy or our energy efficiency division, what we are hoping to do as in this division, myself as division director, is to create a consulting company for families who are looking to make their homes more energy efficient. By making them more energy efficient in the long term, hoping to save money and obviously reduce their global footprint and energy usage. So your challenge, what your team is going to be doing, is you are going to, we have some information on a couple of families. We're going to provide you with that information, and then you are going to help a family decide on what energy improvements are the best for them, given what their circumstances are and what their desires are, that fits their needs and, of course, their budget. Now, remember, these are our clients, so we want to try and make them happy. At the same time, they've agreed to talk to us, but no money has been exchanged yet. So this is a sales pitch. Let's be straightforward. This is a sales pitch. We want them to agree with this, and then we will help them go forward with this plan. All right. Your task is to create a stylish and persuasive video proposal, of course, with social distancing in place. Kind of interesting time to start a new division. We are going to create a video proposal for your client, your family's client, or your client's family, that is the most energy efficient, that they can get the most of what they want within their budget. So let me talk a little bit about what that is and some of the information. So this is let me tell you a little bit about the profiles you guys will be given. This is kind of a little sample, and we'll talk about some of the stuff here. All right. So in each family profile, you will obviously be given their budget, the top there, which we'll talk a little bit about that. We were able to work out a deal with some of the families, which I'll talk about at the end. Their local conditions, because they're actually from all over the United States. We were able to get a couple of these families. And then we wrote the scouting team kind of wrote a little background about what they want and what they're looking to do, and hopefully where they're trying to save money and so on and so forth. And then what we were able to do is, working with a couple companies, we were able to get some potential supplies, things all the way from programmable thermostats to regulate the temperature in their home, to solar panels, all the way to air conditioners and things like that. And we were able to get quotes on a lot of those equipment that we can potentially offer. So each one's going to be offered with this chart here. This chart is all the potential improvements we can make. You don't have to make all of them. You're not going to be able to make all of them. But here's some potential ones. A couple things I want to point out about each one of them. For each item, all right, there is 3 columns, 3 things to consider. There is the cost of the materials. Right? Obviously, we have to buy the programmable thermostat. We have to pay to have it installed. That's part of our process. Now, I will say some families are willing to do that themselves, so that's a place where we can save some money. And then the annual savings. All right. So, some things, for example, a programmable thermostat, you can get good annual savings, but, look at something like solar panels. It's going to take a long time, cost $10,000. Materials, it's expensive stuff, and it saves you $2,000. So it's going to take a while for it to recover that cost, to kind of get to the point where you're actually making money on that. So you got to, spend some money to make some money. And the families are aware of that, but each family has a little bit of different things that they want. So you just have to make sure it matches. All right. So again, those are the information that is going to be on each sheet of the family backgrounds that you will have. I'll have to share those electronically with you since we won't be able to do this in person. All right. So the things to consider. All right. Oops. Sorry. Things to consider. Just stuff to think about while you and your team are kind of looking how to approach this. All right. What's your family's budget? Where are they located? All right. Some are in very warm climates, some are in very cool climates. That's going to affect what they need and what they want. And what do you think is more important? That kind of goes with the housing situation. Some are houses, some are apartments. So you have to think about that. Some things are if they're apartments, they only have limitations on what they can adjust. Obviously, what do they want? And then think about the possible energy improvements. If they're looking to change their heating and cooling, here's some ways they can do that. If they're looking to change some lighting, here's some ways to do that. If their water heater's old, here's some ways to do that. These are just this chart I made just to kind of give you some suggestions on how to do that. Again, with those improvements, make sure you're considering the cost of materials, cost of installation, and annual savings. And I'll show you how the best way to calculate all that stuff in a moment. All right, so your actual proposal. All right, your actual proposal. What improvements do you want or should the family make to their home? What are the benefits? More importantly, what are the costs? People want to know what are the good things, but they want to know what's going to cost them. All right, so I'll talk a little bit about what your proposal is going to look like. You need to create a proposal that includes a plan on how the family can update their home. All right, now that proposal needs to include an audio and visual component for the client. All right. We can't go in person to meet with these families, obviously, given our situation. So we need to make it feel like a real sales pitch as much as possible. All right. So you're going to have to create some sort of visual presentation, as I am right now, and some sort of audio presentation, as I am now. And please do not directly read off the slide. Obviously, there are components that you want to read, but don't notice I'm not just directly reading off the slide because you are able to read. You've been all in meetings before where someone has read directly off the slide, and it is extremely boring. Do not do that. We are trying to help these families, but by paying us to do that. All right, a couple things you should include. Obviously, think about what they want, what they need. The previous slide I talked about. One thing I want to say is you might not be able to get everything that they want. They might want 5 things, and just based on the budget, you have to prioritize what you think are the most, and maybe you only can pay for 3. You have to prioritize and then justify to them why these are the most 3 important things to do. All right. So you need to suggest for improvements and explanation of why these are the best things for their home. All right. Again, you might not be able to hit everything. Obviously, you want to hit more than one. If they have 5 things and you hit one of them, even if it's a big money thing, they still might not be super happy with that. Or you could do that, but you just really need to play off why this one thing is so much more important than trying to get at least 4 or 5 other things they wanted. All right. And then I'll talk a little bit on the next slide about your proposal should include why you want to do this, summarize their situation, why you want to do the things you want to do, you're suggesting, and then what's going to cost them. All right. So those are kind of the big 3 pillars of what you're going to do. Which I'll talk about the calculations in a moment. Remember, we're trying to sell them on this. We don't have their money yet. We're trying to help them, but at the same time, that we need this division to be funding. So let me give you a little example of what this looks like. All right. So you could copy and paste this chart, and depending on how many improvements you do, you can make this chart even larger. So right now I only have 4 lines on that for improvements. If you are doing 6 or 8 improvements, you can just add more lines to this. I made this very simply using Google Sheets. So you're going to need to obviously write down what is the improvement they want to make, what is the total cost, which is the materials, and how much installation, assuming you have to install it. Like I said, some families won't do that. How much annual savings there is. So how much are they saving because of this improvement? And then to find out how many years it will cost them, or for them to recover that cost. So if they spend something for $200 and they make $100 back in savings every year, it's going to be 2 years till they pay that off. But they're looking for a 10-year. We kind of set up with the family. We said we're looking at a 10-year plan. All these families understand that these are 10-year savings that we're looking at here. So you would just take that annual savings times 10 minus the initial cost, because that will be the total savings. So for example, if the total cost, first column here, is $200, let's say the annual savings is $100, it will take 2 years to recover that cost. 200 divided by 100. In 10 years, so annual savings 100 times 10, that's 1,000 minus the initial cost. That's a savings of $800 over 10 years. That's significant money. Okay. So, and then there's one little box up here, which I will talk about in a moment, but I want to just point it out, that some families are willing to double their family budget, which I will talk about in a moment, because there are some stipulations with that. All right. And then you would just add all these up in the very end to see what their savings will be in 10 years. All right. You want to present all this information. Make sure this chart is nice, clean, and neat so they can read it. It's just a bunch of words in a box, like it doesn't make sense. Make sure it's clear and neat. This is a proposal. All right. We are trying to sell someone. All right. So a couple things to think about. Know your family. What do they want? What workarounds can you get? Some places have free installation. I know one or more families have pre-bought a couple of the materials. Make sure your improvements line up to what they want. What do they already have? Don't buy them. If they just bought a new water heater, don't buy them a new water heater, even if it saves them lots of money. They already have one. Don't do that. All right. Pay attention to climate. All right. And then consider your budget. What are some things might be, for example, you really want, there was 2 things they really wanted, and this one might lose you money in the end for 10 years. That's not good, but I got you both things, and this first one is going to save you a lot of money. So, these are just arguments you have to make. You're trying to persuade them, get everything they want as much as possible, but also save them money. It's kind of finding that fine line. All right, now this last part here, families are willing to double their budgets. They're willing to go all in. But they want to save 100% of what they put into it in 10 years. In 10 years, they want to make back every cent they spent. So if their original budget was $3,000, they're saying, okay, I will spend $6,000. I will get an extra loan. But in 10 years, I expect a savings of $6,000. I want to make my money back in 10 years. So that is kind of a risky one, because if you don't, that's not a very good plan. If you don't think you can reach that $6,000, then don't double the budget. You can't go, if their original budget is $3,000, you can't say, well, what about $4,000? It's either $3,000 or double $6,000. And then if you do the $6,000 or you go to the double amount, you have to make that money back in 10 years. That is the agreement we made with them to kind of give ourselves a little bit more wiggle room and try and give everyone what they want. All right. So in the end, I'll talk a little bit more about this. I'll go really fast on this. This is part of your employee review. All right. To determine if if you're doing a good job at this division, I'm going to be looking at a couple things. Obviously, how well you did on your presentation. Are your numbers good? Are you hitting what they want? And then what's your presentation? That's going to be a big part of it. A big part of it is how are you presenting? We're going to send these videos out, or this audio visual portion of this out into to the clients. And so they need to be able to watch it, and it needs to be clean and accurate. Excuse me. Remember, you are directing this not to your division director, but to the client. So talk to them directly. When you are completed, submit it into our program files on Schoology. This will need to be done by the end of the week of May 8th. I will have a link here to help you as well. I just forgot to highlight it. My apologies. I will highlight there on how to do that if you do not know how to do that already. Obviously, if there's any questions, don't hesitate to contact me again as the division director, Richardson, to answer any of your questions that you might have. All right. So I just kind of the last part here are just some possible tools you can use. There's all kinds of stuff you can use, but remember it needs to include an audio and visual part. You can make your own website for the family. You can make an infographic. Those are very popular these days. You can do lots of different things. I'm not going to limit it. I just kind of limited those some things. I know those are some things that are available to us very easily. For the audio component, you can use things like Screencastify, which is what I'm using right now to communicate with you. I'm using Screencastify. If you're doing some sort of website, if you want to embed specific videos, just make sure that you're there a little bit, maybe a video of you explaining some of the basic stuff. That doesn't have to be doing the tutorial of the whole video, what it is, but you can embed a couple different things. But I would like to see, they should be able to hear the person who is giving the sales pitch as well. So if you want to embed videos, that's a good idea, especially if you're doing something, like I said, like a Google site or something like that. All right. Like I said, you guys are going to be working in your guys' teams. These teams can either be by yourself. You can do a solo team, I guess, or you may work with one other person as a partner team. All right. You will need to communicate with them. Obviously, these times of social distancing, that makes that hard. But if you want to communicate with one other person, that's fine. Just make sure you put both your names on your final proposal. If you have any questions, make sure to email the director, myself. Anything's on those things. I'm trying to make sure if there's anything. Otherwise, we'll conclude this meeting. Let me check my notes. I think that's it. If you have any questions, just don't hesitate to ask. And we'll get to it. I guess last thing, the families that you will be given the profiles will be on the one of the documents that you will see on your guys' to-do list on your weekly agenda. So otherwise, good luck and happy proposal making.